This video is designed to help you get started on your very first Fusion project. If you've never opened Fusion before, this is the video for you. Now, I have a problem in my workshop, and we're gonna fix that with today's little design. My shop is right next door to a guy who trains horses, and so we constantly have flies in here no matter what I do. Now, I ration myself exactly 1 soda per day. That's the only soda I get to drink, is this 1 can of soda. But there's flies that just kind of buzz around in here. There's never like swarms of them, but there's always 1 or 2. And I'm always afraid that they're gonna get into my soda, my precious soda, and ruin it. So I want just a little cap that I can set over my sodas when I'm not drinking them to keep the flies out. And considering this is an active machine shop, it doesn't hurt to keep dust and mist or whatever out of my drink. So let's 3D model just a little cap that can go on this can. Now, the first thing we need to know is, how big is our can? How big are we going to make this object that we're going to put on our can? You could probably go online and find the dimensions somewhere. Like, I think that would be a fairly easily Googleable thing. But I have a tool that is these are called calipers. Calipers are basically just the quickest and easiest way to measure small things. There is a digital readout that tells you exactly how far apart the jaws are. These ones I have are a premium brand, Meditoyo. I'll have a link down in the description. They're about $80, or they were when I bought them. Who knows with post-COVID pricing. But you can find cheap ones at Harbor Freight or on Amazon for $20 or under. If you plan on modeling things that interact with the real world, calipers are a must. So I'm just going to take some basic dimensions here so that I'll have them ready when we start modeling. All right, so let's go back into Fusion land. And this is how Fusion should look basically whenever you open it. My background may be a little bit different, or these buttons may be rearranged. Don't worry about it. The workflow is always exactly the same. You always start with a 2-dimensional drawing that is called a sketch. To create a sketch, you get to press this button right here. It's called Create Sketch. If you don't see that button, you can click on this Create dropdown, and Sketch will be the second thing there. I'm going to click that. And then it's going to pop up here these 3 little shapes here, these 3 little squares. These are the different origin planes. They're basically just a place where you can stick your first sketch. So I'm going to stick my sketch right there. I'm going to hover over it, and I'm going to click. Now I'm going to click on this circle tool right here. It says Center Diameter Circle. And again, if you don't see that button, it might be here under Circle. So I'm going to click that. And then it wants me to place 2 different points. It wants me to place the center point and then an edge point. And then I hit escape to get out of that tool. It doesn't matter where you put those first points, because now we are going to put a dimension in. The button for dimension is down at the bottom of the create menu right there. Though if you notice right here, it says D next to it. That means by pressing D on the keyboard, it'll do exactly the same thing as pressing the button. From now on, I'm probably going to hit D out of habit, but if you need to know where the button is, it's right here. So I'm going to click on it. Then I'm just going to click on the edge of my circle, and you'll see that it gives me this dimension here. I'm going to click one more time, and it's going to highlight this blue, expecting me to type something in. So I know that my can is 2.11 inches in diameter. Now that is the can, not the outside of our little cap. And I know that I want some extra space between the edge of my can and my cap. So I'm just going to type in plus 0.25. That'll mean my circle is 1/4 inch bigger than the can, which sounds good to me. To finish off this sketch, I'm going to hit the Finish Sketch button here in the top right corner. And that'll bring me back into 3D mode here. So now we want to make this circle into basically a puck shape, a cylinder. We want to make our circle into a cylinder. And we do that with the Extrude button, which I have a video on if you want to watch that, link in the description. So I'm going to press the Extrude button. It'll pop up a new menu for me here. If I had more than one sketch, I might have to choose the profile that I wanted to extrude. Profile in this case just means a closed shape. But it already guessed what I wanted to do, so I'm just going to use that arrow and drag it up. So now I have the cylinder here. It says it's 1.2 inches. Based on my measurements earlier, I know I want to make that 0.15 inches plus 0.125 inches. And when I hit OK, I'll have the starts of my cap. But we don't just want a puck that we can put on top of the can. we want it to like actually fit on the can. So now I'm going to place a second sketch on the side of the can. So I clicked on the Create Sketch button, and now I'm going to click on my cap here, and now I'm creating a new sketch right on top of the cap. You can see it's not on the old plane anymore. It's moved to be on this surface here. I want a new circle that is on top of this circle, and this is going to be just slightly larger than our can. So our can was 2.11, and we want this to be just to be a little bit larger so that it fits on easily. Let's say 0.03 inches larger. When I hit OK, you can see that's how big it is. I'm going to finish the sketch, and now I'm going to use the extrude to, instead of adding material, I'm going to remove material by cutting down into the can. And I know that I want this from my measurements earlier to be negative 0.15 inches. It is negative because it is cutting down into this surface. If it was not negative, it would be putting material up there. So we want it to cut 0.15 inches. That's why that's negative. And there's the basic shape. That should fit nicely on top of our can. But let's make it look just a little bit nicer. First of all, if you're 3D printing this, it is always good to have a chamfer along the edge of your part that you're putting face down on the bed of your printer. So, and a chamfer is just cutting the corner off with a straight diagonal line. So I'm going to use this chamfer button here, and then I'm going to click on the ring, the top little circle here, and I can type in a number like 0.05 inches. And that'll just cut off the corners, which will make it a little bit nicer in the hands, and it'll help it print better. I'm just going to hit OK. And let's do something similar on the top, except instead of it being a straight line, I want a curved line, and that is called a fillet. Not a fillet, a fillet. So I'm going to select that line, and then that line, and then I'm going to make up a number. How about 0.02? Oh, that seems a little small. How about 0.04? There we go. So now there's a nice rounded edge, which will be good on your hands. Anything that you touch, you generally want to fillet on. It feels nicer on the hands than a sharp corner. And it'll also help it slip over the can easily. Again, I'm going to hit OK. And I think that's our final design there. I know Fusion is really intimidating when you first get into it. There are so many buttons, and like, how do you figure out which one to press? Well, first of all, 90% of the time, you are just using the extrude. There's a bunch of other fancy things, but they're basically all just different variants of extrude. There's like the revolve button, which is basically just extruding around a corner. There's the sweep button, which is just extruding along a line. If you understand extrude, you can do anything in Fusion. Secondly, all of these buttons basically work in the same way. You start with a sketch, and then you do something to make it three-dimensional. Extrude is the simplest method. So if you're trying to draw something like this aluminum tape measure, all you really have to do is break it down into its core features. You have to think about what this looks like if you were to break it down into a couple spots. Well, okay, there's one big cylinder defines most of it, and then I'm adding a little bit of a rectangle down here for where the tape measure goes in and out. And this one has a little bit of a circular cutout so that you can drop it, so that you can use your finger to stop it. And that's really all it is. Other than that, it's just throwing a bunch of fillets in there. It's a rectangle, it's a cylinder, and it's one cutout. If you think about your projects like that, just a series of basic shapes, Fusion really isn't that hard to learn. Anyway, if you want to buy something that I make, like this tape measure, you can do so at designtheeverything.com. I make physical products right there behind me on that mill. Sorry if it's causing some background noise. This is actually my secondary channel. I have a main channel where I talk about my business. If you'd like to see that YouTube channel, it's down there in the links below. And if you like this video, I really think you'd like this one.